Hello, this is Scoop Insight. I'm Azim Idris and I have our editor-in-chief, Terence Fernandez. Today we are diving into things related to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights. And we have a very special guest, Edmund Bon, who is a prominent human rights lawyer and Malaysian representative to the
AICHR. He's the chairman.
AICHR. He's the chairman.
AICHR.
AICHR. Okay. So we understand that it is a ASEAN equivalent of SUHAKAM. So what does AICHR actually do?
AICHR was founded in 2009 and we are supposed to promote and protect human rights.
Okay.
We have mandates to work with all the other 9 governments. ASEAN is made out of 10 member states. And now Timor-Leste is coming in October. So
Right.
we will have 11 members in the commission. So we've been doing a lot of promotion of human rights work, and some countries like Malaysia, with other countries, mainly Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, have been pushing for greater protection powers
Right.
of the commission. So this debate about promotion and protection of human rights in ASEAN has been ongoing, and the commission is at the forefront of that debate.
Right.
How sincere and serious are these governments when it comes to the kind of advocacy that you are doing, responding to your advocacy in pushing for human rights improvements in their respective countries?
So it depends really on the issue. We are actually human rights diplomats. It's human rights diplomacy. We are not like the European Union where we have powers to use trade or tariffs to coerce people. It's a lot of persuasion, it's a lot of encouragement. So I think a lot of the discussion center around how officials in the different governments can improve. So there's a lot of genuine and sincerity in the sort of lower ranking senior officials at our level. When it comes to issues that are not controversial, I think it's quite easy to talk about. It's quite easy to push. But when it comes to a bit more sensitive issues, a bit more emotional issues, each country has our own country position. And you can see the different conflicts that we are having in the region.
There is an issue of sovereignty, right? And ASEAN non-interference. That kind of shackles your hands and inhibits what you are, how much you can do. I mean, is that a fair assessment of the challenges that you are facing?
Yeah. Non-interference is a big principle in ASEAN.
Right.
But we have spoken, the late Surin Pitsowan, Anwar Ibrahim, even at that time when he wasn't the Prime Minister, was talking about flexible engagement. So non-interference has some limits. When it causes a regional spillover, then we need to start talking about flexible engagement. That word flexible engagement actually means that although it's something that normally sovereignty and non-interference will not allow you to talk about, but if it affects other countries, then we can talk about it. For example, the Rohingya boat refugees. We talked about it in 2016, 2017. Myanmar has been excluded because of the coup. We talk about it so much. We even have the 5-point consensus. So it really depends on the issue, how serious the conflict is, how bad the issue is, until the other member states say, I think there's a limit to non-interference.
So like Myanmar is a very good example because we are bearing the brunt. Malaysia is bearing the brunt of what's going on. The Rohingyas coming to our shores, right? And how much can Malaysia do to compel Myanmar and compel its ASEAN partners to get Myanmar to the table and to come to a solution?
So that's why I think we say there are always 2 extremes. One is something what we call the responsibility to protect. A lot of countries don't like that because responsibility to protect imagines that if a country or the Myanmar government is not protecting the citizens but killing them, then other countries are going to put boots on the ground. You're going to have peacekeepers, for example. That's one extreme. Well, that really is like intervention, right? And that's something that nobody wants. But here at this stage, we are looking at how we can do human rights diplomacy, what political dialogue we can have.
Sorry, does ASEAN provide for that? Peacekeepers?
So that has been floated many times.
Okay.
So I'm saying there's 2 extremes. Some countries don't like the R2P, responsibility to protect, because if we are talking about it, we need to put our peacekeepers in Myanmar. But on another day, Malaysia will say, if we have a conflict, you shouldn't be doing it to our country. So there's a lot of skepticism about it. So if you ask to what extent we can do a lot, there's a lot of work on the ground in terms of political dialogue, in terms of persuasion. And that's why we have Tan Sri Othman Hashim now, the envoy to the Malaysia's envoy on the Myanmar issue, who has been having a lot of closed-door dialogues with all the stakeholders, trying to come up to some sort of a political consensus to stop the killing. But it's not easy, of course. We cannot be impatient in terms of if you're not using violence. So the question is, responsibly protect, there's some amount of intervention there. If we are not going to do that, then what do we have? We only have powers of persuasion.
Yeah, so Edmund, human rights laws differ from country to country. And when you're talking to the regional partners, right, what kind of point of references do you use? How do you reach like a common ground as to what the objectives are and what kind of legislation or what kind of policy recommendations are coming? How do you go about this?
So we have two things. One, we have a regional baseline called the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration,
Okay.
2012. It took 2 years for it to be negotiated.
Right.
That ASEAN Human Rights Declaration is a declaration that provides some regional flavor and a baseline, an agreement regionally among the 10 countries. We have agreed in that declaration that we will not go below the international standards. So we have the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, the civil political rights, economic, social, cultural rights. The only challenge now is how do we make the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration binding? We have it as soft law, it's non-binding. In different courts and in Malaysia as well, we have used it. Judges have said, hey, in ASEAN, you all have agreed to it. The next stage is how to make it binding. And then what we have done during chairmanship year, this year, has been to push 2 other declarations. For the first time, the Commission, after the 2012 declaration, we are pushing one on environmental rights to deal with climate change. Second one, we are dealing with a declaration on right to development. Right to development includes political development, social, cultural, and economic development.
It's the development piece towards realizing inclusive and sustainable development.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So these are the 2 that you're working on for the last 2 years. And you're actually pushing it to be a legally binding treaty, right?
So the initial idea was that it should be legally binding.
Then there was a lot of pushback from some countries,
Yes.
or all countries.
No, from some countries.
Are you at liberty to mention those countries?
Different countries have different
Okay,
standards.
Myanmar, and then number 2,
Actually,
Brunei.
so we are not here for all the technical details because I think confidentially, some of these negotiations keep going on back and forth. There may still be a possibility for the second declaration, but for the environmental rights declaration, after the 2 years, we have decided that it's going to be soft law. It's not going to be binding, but there is going to be very progressive. I can tell you that the principles there that include indigenous people, include freedom of information, include freedom of expression, include access to justice, it's there. But it's already a huge step from 2012 during chairmanship year. Imagine 2012, we are 2025. And we are only looking at a second declaration in ASEAN. And then we are also looking at a third declaration during chairmanship year.
So how does these declarations help, marginalized groups, vulnerable groups? How can they use this declaration, to protect themselves and to enhance their, their campaign of sustainability and whatnot? Yeah.
So 2 ways. They can use it in their advocacy. So it's a moral imperative. They can go about and say, look, if you are doing this to me, you should stop because the declaration said this. And if you're going to court, if you're going to the Thai court, the transboundary haze, or you're going to a Lao court, they should be using the declaration. The second way, of course, is that in how we engage governments, we can try and make that binding. Only yesterday, I think the highest court said that if you are a signatory to the Paris Agreement, you as a state and company may be liable for climate abuse. And that is a Paris Treaty. Of course, that's binding. But before you come to the Paris Treaty, you will have non-binding instruments that are also still recognized. So these are step by step. You cannot look at it in a way that it's immediate.
So you would say that the declaration for like environment, is it more critical than the one on development? Do you treat that with more priority than the other declaration?
The environment started earlier during led by Thailand for almost 2 years already.
Yeah.
So that was a bit faster. Malaysia, during our chairmanship, we introduced it at AICHR, the second one, the right to development. And right to development is not about economy only. It's about also culture, social, and political development.
Right.
And one of the things in our work plan is to improve democracy in the region. In our new 5-year work plan, we have protection of human rights defenders, we have protection of democratic principles, and political development. You can see in ASEAN, we have different levels of political development. Some countries are more free, some countries are less free. So during our chairmanship, I think we also want to focus on this political development, economic development, social and cultural development.
So I guess you guys are on the clock lah, because of the chairmanship, which expires at the end of the year, right?
October,
December.
and then they work then on.
Oh, you're handing over in October.
Yeah,
Handover in the summit is in October, but we hand over in November.
In November.
Yeah.
So what do you want to achieve by November or by the summit as the Malaysian chair? Because there's the added pressure on you guys, on you,
Yeah.
on AICHR and the current chairman.
So I think the declarations are important. We talked about it. You know, if you can adopt it, it really makes history because we have not done it since 2012, 2 declarations. The third thing that we are suggesting is to declare 18 November ASEAN Human Rights Day. The fourth thing that we are talking about is how do we create a mechanism we call a communication complaints mechanism. So like Suhakam, right? Suhakam in Malaysia, you can go and complain. You can do a press conference, complain about what the government is doing to you, and Suhakam will look into it. So we are trying to have that kind of mechanism, that kind of system where you can complain about what's happening on human rights in different countries, and then the commission looks at it. We actually started it already. We actually started looking at the right to peaceful assembly in Malaysia, Suaram's case, 7 Doris Amin's case as a human rights defender. There was a complaint. We looked at it. I spoke to the Malaysian authorities, and then they came up and said, look, we are not pursuing prosecuting 7 for peaceful assembly, NFA. So then we considered the case and then we provided a response. So we're trying to get that kind of communication mechanism going, where survivors and victims of human rights violations can actually come to us and for us to process the case.
Suppose I was an activist in one of the Southeast Asian countries. I feel that I am being persecuted by the authorities. So, and I want to reach out to you. Like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
How can I present my case to you? And is it also like, are you attending to these cases on like a pro bono basis, or how are you going to represent them?
So just write into the commission, the email. We receive a lot on our website, AICHR.org, and then we will filter the complaints. So if the complaints is about Malaysia, for example, we have an internal system where we will look at the case and see whether it's the domestic remedies have been exhausted. So if the case is in court in Malaysia or Suhakam is looking into it, then we won't look into it. But if all the domestic remedies have completed, then we will start looking into a case. And it must be a case that's related to the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. You cannot come and complain to us like a consumer complaints tribunal, for example. Somebody is not looking into your processing of some form in government. No, that's not. It's important, but that's not one of the issues of human rights violations that we actually tend to. We have received a lot of cases on refugee rights, especially on the Myanmar cases. We have received a lot of cases on freedom of expression. Human rights defenders, we have received a lot of cases, and we try and mediate those cases or try and respond in a positive way after investigating.
In the context of Malaysia, what about cases like enforced disappearances? Is that something that AICHR will look into?
Yeah, so if it's a right to life case, and it's definitely something that the hook is at the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. We will look at it. It's just that when the case comes, we will always not take a position yet. We will ask the government authorities, law enforcement, KDN, and Suhakam, and all the other agencies, and say what's their view on it. Then we do our own assessment. We hear from the victim and survivor's family, and then we come up with our own recommendation.
Do
as
you
to what to
wait
do.
for a complaint to be lodged with you, or do you arbitrarily look at issues and feel that these are human rights issues that we need to throw our head into the ring?
So traditionally, we wait for the complaint. Only we look at it because there are a lot of issues. But there is a second approach that we have taken. So Malaysia, in our chairmanship year, even before, we have been making statements, even though we do not receive complaints on it. We look at what the situation is in Southeast Asia. Myanmar is, of course, a big issue.
Yeah.
We have made statements in every meeting, even Gaza and Palestine, even Papua. These are issues that we will raise at the ASEAN platform where all the 10 countries are. Sometimes they will respond, sometimes they will not respond. But at least we are doing our part to raise the issue as human rights activists.
So these issues of, say, Pastor Koh, for instance, has been raised at the ASEAN level.
Officially, I don't think it's been raised with us at official ASEAN level. But Pastor Koh's case, which we've been following, and we've followed the SWACAM report as well, which is very good, is at the national level.
Okay.
So the national level, for us, for my part, have not been exhausted.
Okay.
So you see the UN is on the top, Malaysia national, Laos, Indonesia, wherever is national, UN. So regional, we are some sort of in between.
Okay.
But you need to exhaust your national remedies first. You need to exhaust your national remedies first, or you need to show that the national courts or the national law enforcement are refusing to do anything, unwilling or unable. Then you come up to us.
Sorry. I was just remembering this case in Myanmar. Is a teen activist had died after being incarcerated for 2 years under the current military government. She was tortured. Did you read about that case? So how about cases where the complainants cannot complain? They cannot tell you that they are facing this this problem. How do you go about these kind of instances where there are people who are in prison and they cannot reach out to you? They cannot reach out to AICHR. And a lot of them, a lot of these cases go unheard of, unreported, unrecorded, and so on. How you go about this, and how do you actually engage these governments, if they are actual governments, to like, hey, look, and hold them accountable. Yeah.
So I answer in two ways. Some of the cases really we cannot record. But the CSOs that come to us, we have CSOs, we are accredited CSOs in the region that bring those cases. We take it as part of the issue, and then once it's an issue of disappearance or torture, we will then engage with the Myanmar rep on the commission. That's why we still engage with the Myanmar government, sort of in an official way, but through the representative in the commission.
Have there been any successes or not? Any headway that you have gained with Myanmar or not?
On particular issues, we have raised it many times. Whether it has traction in their own country is difficult to say. So in terms of clear successes at the commission level, there's still a lot of cautiousness. So I can't say that there's clear success, but if people are saying we are not doing anything about Myanmar, or people are saying we are not raising the voices of survivors and victims, then that's not true. Because that's something that we have been doing consistently, even against the principle of non-interference. Malaysia has spoken out so many times, 2016, 2017, and even until now with Indonesia.
Yeah, that was because there are problems landing at our beaches. So that's why we... that's why we had to speak up.
Yeah.
But I guess it is more effective for AICHR, I suppose, to go on case by case basis. Not getting them to change the entire policy and whatnot. But they also need to save face, right?
Yeah.
Because they are quote unquote a sovereign nation, okay, elected, quote unquote. So if the individual cases like the one that Azim brought up, so behind the scenes, AICHR will push for a resolution and maybe for the release of this particular person. Is that how you operate also?
Yeah, so we have the principles under the declaration. Again, it really revolves around who are the champions in the commission. Of course, there are some countries that may not see this as a violation or may not even want to investigate. So they block you at the procedural level. But for us, I think for some of us at the commission, we see this as a very serious issue, and then we try and take it forward.
Every country is represented on the commission, right?
Yes, of course.
Including Myanmar, right?
Yes, including Myanmar, and we engage with them equally and similarly as how we engage. They have the similar speaking rights and similar voting rights.
You keep at it. You might have to help release your commissioner from Myanmar gulag.
I think the situation in Myanmar is quite bad. There's no denial about it. It's one of the most serious cases in the world. The question is, the real question that people try to avoid is whether are we prepared to do more than just have diplomacy.
So this forms part of your 5-year plan. We are going. Malaysia is going to, surrender or give the ASEAN chairmanship to Philippines later in the year. But regardless, what's happening now, and I think we had this conversation before this podcast session, is that AICHR is looking at a solid 5-year plan, right? So can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, so Malaysia, during our chairmanship this year, we have successfully completed the negotiations for a 5-year work plan.
Right.
This 5-year work plan, I can say, is the most progressive and I think bold plan that we have seen ever by the Commission. It has 78 action lines over 6 focus areas. For 2026, we are looking at 28 program action lines. And these include issues of finding a template, what I call a template, for people to understand a bit easier when it comes to conflict. ASEAN doesn't have an institutionalized mechanism to deal with conflict, whether conflict prevention or whether conflict resolution. The Myanmar issue, for example, the 5-point consensus was hashed together by the ministers with the diplomats by Brunei, I think, at that time, in a very ad hoc fashion. It's very logical, right? It says humanitarian aid, access, stop the fighting, and a few other things. Very logical, but we still don't have a mechanism, a coordinated mechanism to come up whenever there's a new conflict. So if you talk about Thailand and Cambodia, where is the template? There's no template. There's no there's no guideline that says 1, do this, 2, do this, 3, do this. You imagine ASEAN has been here for how many years? And yet we don't have a template when it comes to conflict. So that's one of the key areas that we are actually pushing in the next 5-year work plan.
Why don't we have the template? Because we never thought we'll be fighting with our neighbors.
I think there are different reasons. I think some diplomats don't see that it's a bit dangerous for some diplomats will think that it's a bit dangerous to have a template. Because when you have a template, then that template, if it's very onerous, they may not be able to implement it, or if it's implemented, they may be affected if it's in our own country. So I think that's one view. The second view, of course, is from our side as commission. Some of us as commissioners and CSOs are saying, why don't we have a template? So I give you the example, right? Myanmar was ad hoc. Even Cyclone Nagis, when it hit Myanmar, was ad hoc. There was a task force, coordination, support. It was a very good example, but it was ad hoc. Timor-Leste had the peacekeeping force, but UN had to come in. We didn't have the example or the guideline how to do it. And that's why when you talk about Thailand and Cambodia, of course, they don't want to ASEAnize it. They don't want to internationalize it. But you know that it's facing us in our face, right? We are seeing it, that there are people and civilians being killed. So how do we go about trying to make sure that doesn't happen?
So we are having this conversation on July 24th, 2025. 2 hours ago at
3 hours
at 4 p.m. So about 3 hours ago, the French skirmishes have begun at the Thai-Cambodia border. And how do you see, or where do you see the conflict resolution going at this time?
Yeah, so it's quite fresh. But what I understand talking to some of my friends and colleagues and diplomats around, Thailand and Cambodia, number one, do not want to internationalize it. They do not want to ASEANize it. They say it's a bilateral issue. Number two, some underlying reasons that have been given. I'm not sure which is the truth, but there's arguments that this is another pretext to that's linked to online scamming and the reports that have come out about Cambodia's economy being the reports have said Cambodia's economy and the ruling government is supported by a lot of these gangs. I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but these are reports that have come up. And thirdly, as human rights people, we are just saying for the first level, make sure the civilians are not targeted or attacked. You already see civilians being hit.
At least two. Two died.
I think there may be more as well, right?
Yeah.
But you can see that when Thailand and Cambodia says, no, it's just between us, we're not going to ASEANize it, ASEAN is totally out of the picture. Until and unless there's going to be regional spillover.
Yeah.
For example, if a Malaysian person dies, or if refugees leave from those countries and we are affected.
But invariably, it's unavoidable. Right? It is an ASEAN issue because these are major ASEAN member states. So Malaysia, how can Malaysia escalate, mediate or de-escalate the situation? Because it's quite, it's blowing over into something quite major as we are seeing the situation unfold. So how can Malaysia help with this?
At this point in time, I've not heard anything and whether they want mediation to be done by Malaysia. But I think the ASEAN chair, our foreign minister, has mentioned, if I recall correctly, saying that I think this is still a bilateral issue, still at a bilateral level. It's not got as bad as Myanmar. But again, coming back to the human rights position, the question is it time for the commission to say we should make a statement, we should make recommendations, make sure the civilians are protected. And then as chair, even when we present a statement, Cambodia and Thailand are in the commission. So they have a right to say no to it. So these are some strategies that perhaps we have to consider if you ask me what Malaysia's role can be.
I mean, this is where people can see or want to see the Malaysian chairmanship of ASEAN in action. Right now you ask the regular Joe on the ground about ASEAN, the first thing that comes to mind is Jalan Tutup. They have to wait for 3 hours before they can use Max Highway again. It's very annoying because I live near Max Highway. So, so there has to be some significant action, on the current conflict. But having said that, we're talking about looking for ASEAN solutions. I think I'm just theorizing lah. We can have a debate on that. We want the autonomy of having the region take care of itself. We do not want UN or UN peacekeepers. We don't want a Western template to resolve ASEAN issues because you cannot. The Western template is basically mostly democratically elected governments, white, Christian, or atheists. But here, you're looking at deep-rooted cultural and ethnic issues as well. Deep-rooted cultural issues. Deep-rooted Buddhism, Islam. Of course, the Philippines is one of the most populous Catholic communities in the world. Yeah. So therein lies, the conundrum or the challenges in finding a one-size-fits-all solution to the ASEAN problem. I mean, you want to chime in on that?
So I give you the example from what we have seen. You are right. Issues of South China Sea, issue of Myanmar, even issue of Timor-Leste, Papua. I think we are all very clear that we don't want Western external forces to unnecessarily drive the agenda. Then the next question has been, and I've experienced it even in ASEAN meetings or related meetings, China would try and use their influence. They will use their influence in trying to influence diplomats from other ASEAN member states. So the question is, you don't want the West, you also don't want China, right? Because China is not necessarily Southeast Asia, but they are superpower. And you can see that China has a huge role in controlling some of the armed groups in Myanmar. The political economy, the roots, and the junta, they have a lot of links to it. And that's why you will notice in October when we have the declaration environment, we always talk about ASEAN-owned, ASEAN-led, whole of ASEAN approach. And that is what we have been trying to stress in all our efforts. But because some countries are so influenced by some other countries that are outside ASEAN, then we cannot achieve consensus on a lot of things. South China Sea is one example. Myanmar is another example. So we still need to go at it. We still need to find that common baseline. And you are right, we have to use the strengths of all our cultural and religious diversities to work towards it. I think, and I'm confident and optimistic that there are a lot of right-minded people in ASEAN. It's just how they can influence more of the elite, the powerful elite that still control the corridors of power.
I think also when like Terence mentioned, there's a lot of complexities, right? Cultural, ethnic, religious. But even when we have a lot of commonalities, right? Say for example with Singapore, our neighboring country, and they are quite adamant on things like the mandatory death sentence for drug trafficking, among other crimes. But whereas we in Malaysia here, we have introduced a moratorium, right, on that, and with possible changes to the law to avoid it as much as possible. My question on that is like, how do we even engage like a country like Singapore? Like who are we to tell them, like, hey, you should follow our way? And how do AICHR go about? How does it go about this? Especially on I think because drug trafficking is quite big in this region, right? So and also mandatory death sentences, I think meted out in almost all ASEAN countries, if I'm not mistaken.
Laos has got a moratorium. Vietnam is trying to remove the death penalty for some offences. But of course, Singapore is one of the strongest proponents. I think there are two ways of looking at it. One is international law. That's why international human rights law is still very important. The civil political rights, how AICHR has been doing it, our mandate really is to encourage people, encourage states to try and respect international human rights law. And we are very proud to say that we have started to move it. We have started to abolish the mandatory death penalty. And then now the law minister has started to say, hey, we are going to have a task force to look at getting rid of death penalty for good. This is the political...
but this is Malaysia.
Malaysia. So in terms of what the law is, you ask me what the law is, we can use the law, we can use international law to try and encourage countries. But the second thing, of course, is something that we don't normally say. But in academic circle, they will say mimicking. So some countries want... Singapore, of course, has taken a position. No, we must have it. Because we are very strong on crime, strong against crime, and we want to make sure we are stable. We want to get rid of this. And they also argue, you need to think about the victims. Why are you not thinking about the victims enough? When the death penalty for murder, drug trafficking, people get addicted. So those are the arguments that they make. But in the academic circle, they always say there's a form of mimicking, that you want to mimic each other, that you want to be, as the constructivists say, you want to look good.
So like lead by example, right?
You must tell Singapore they're talking cock. Because how many cartel kingpins have they actually arrested and hung? They are hanging youths. Many of them
mostly drug mules, right?
Drug mules. Our Indian boys who are going there. You're a 21-year-old, you make one stupid mistake, and then your life is over. Come on lah. I mean, yes, drugs are a scourge. A lot of people, families of addicts themselves are suffering. The impact is there for all to see. But the death penalty has never once, I would like to be proven wrong, netted a kingpin.
Mm.
You know, the guys were actually sending all these young foot soldiers to their dads.
Yeah.
You see, so this is why I think more table banging needs to happen lah.
Behind closed doors.
Put me on your commission lah, can?
Are we happy to? So
How do I get on the commission? I mean, I'm going to have another 4 months to go.
we engage with the CSOs. I think the CSOs have always come to the commission and made these kind of statements. And some of the commissioners, of course, are not happy with that kind of statements. They will push back. We, of course, are very welcoming because our position, although we sometimes also are a bit concerned about our own position, but I think I always say to the government, looking forward, looking progressively, you may not want to change the law. For example, torture. We have been advocating for the signing up to the convention against torture. You should not be caning kids. Malaysia still canes kids. Discretion.
So torture that
That's
constitutes
torture.
torture.
Torture,
Cruel and
inhumane.
unusual.
Correct.
Not in my day.
Okay.
Caning. So law minister talks about death penalty.
Yeah.
She hasn't yet taken a position on corporal punishment, but in my role, I've been pushing our government, KDN and KLN, to look into corporal punishment, looking into the issue of torture. You shouldn't be beating up people to extract confessions. Law enforcement, right?
Okay. Police brutality.
That's a form. That's torture.
Yeah.
You call it police brutality, but that's torture.
Yes.
And
essentially.
Malaysia has said it repeatedly that we will not do it. The police don't do it. But we still have a lot of cases that happen. So if it is time that Malaysia signs up to the Convention Against Torture and says, look, this is against the law, and then move forward. But the Attorney General's chambers have always taken the position, we need to change the law first. Then only you sign up. I'm saying, let's think about it under this new government, or is rather old government, have signed up to the international standard first. Then only we change our law. AGC says no, we only change the law locally, then only we sign up. But there's no impetus for it. And then when we go about doing our engagements with government, we say, look, it's so unreasonable for us not to sign up when we as a progressive model country in Southeast Asia have been saying that we are against torture. So it's that kind of advocacy using hypocrisy that needs to continue, like you mentioned.
So we're against torture. We are against police brutality and enforced disappearances.
Malaysian police never torture people. What are you talking about?
And then I think prior to this session, we had a small conversation about this very brutal drug war in the Philippines, and you were saying signing up with
ICC, the Rome Statute,
the Rome Statute, and how it was the former president, Filipino President Duterte, is in The Hague right now.
Yeah, he's being
bars.
detained.
He's being detained for his very brutal war on drugs. There were a lot of summary executions.
So when Duterte was shooting people in the streets, what was ASEAN's stand at that time?
Yeah.
Some individual countries or some representatives raised the issue in the commission.
Okay.
But we did not take a collective position, obviously, because Philippines was in that commission.
But Philippines just one vote, what?
Yeah, but because it's consensus. So I would tell you, we are sort of proud, but also sad because in 2025, during our chairmanship, this is the first time we have taken one common position, sending our condolences for the earthquake in Myanmar and Thailand, but also calling in our statement for unimpeded access, humanitarian access, and for the people of Myanmar to be given aid without discrimination. We set out, we had negotiated for a long time, but for our leadership, we have got the statement for the first time since 2009. It's sad because, like you asked me on the Duterte thing, why haven't we made a statement? We tried. I wasn't there throughout the commission for that period, but when we put in a draft, there was a lot of objection as to what kind of statement you're going to make. So this time we just pushed through and we said, look, the earthquake, you need to send condolences, and you say, despite the coup, everybody needs to be given the same type of aid. And we made that position clear.
So Duterte is in detention over in The Hague under the auspices of the ICC and the Rome Statute.
Yeah, so the Rome Statute established the ICC and gives the powers to the ICC.
Right.
So now he's being investigated.
Yeah.
And they don't have the death penalty. So they're not going to kill him if he's punished. But they're going to, if he's going to be found guilty, and I was just watching a documentary, some of the witnesses are being flown over from Manila, he'll be punished with imprisonment. But that's how coercive the law is, international human rights law is, if we have that genuine commitment. But also please remember that he, I think, and Marcos in Philippines are facing a political feud with a daughter and all of that, right?
And
if the Philippines government now does not want to hand him over or does not waive immunity, this will not happen.
And
But that's also where you got, I mean, I'm just digressing here when we talk about ICC and the Western standards of retribution. You won't find the same thing happening to the asshole Netanyahu, isn't it?
Gaza.
In fact, they went after. In fact, the Zionist government regime went after the judges and the prosecutor who happens to be married to a Malaysian.
And also the special rapporteur. Yeah. So that's sad lah. That's why I keep saying, even before Trump came in and before US were doing all these things, I don't understand why people keep saying, US is the example for human rights. The US themselves, but people always say, Western, US, Europe, right? There are a lot of things here that we should be very proud of in terms of human rights, but we don't know how to boast about it. And then we get this Western world trying to tell us those things. But I'm just using that as an example where human rights can actually reach subject to certain conditions to such an extent that you can actually incarcerate a former president. And that's why I say we still need to believe in it. We still need to believe that there can be an ASEAN Human Rights Court.
Yes. So Duterte, because you all didn't do your work, now he's rotting in a Dutch prison thanks to the Quailos. He should be somewhere here in this region, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
we don't have a court.
So is that one of the things that AICHR is also looking into?
That's why because of the Commission's limited powers, we are trying to bring in some of what we can do, like a court. But we cannot have full-blown hearings yet. What we can do is mediation sessions, getting the complaints and trying to listen to people.
Are you unpopular or not? If you're unpopular, that means you're doing your work.
Depends on who you ask. Not me personally, but depends on who you ask. I think different people have different views. Even locally, there are views that have been expressed against my own views. Because, I believe in non-discrimination. People will be saying these issues of gender, these issues of indigenous people. Some people human rights will always be controversial. But as human rights diplomacy continues to develop, we take a position based on what we believe and understand international human rights law to be. And what is logical, right? The Myanmar 5-point consensus is logical, right? You stop the killing. But some people still won't accept it. Some people still won't want to implement it. Like the junta or even some of the armed groups will not want to implement it because they say, they're going to win. And they don't want to come to the table because they think that still going at it at the battlefield is something that their communities want.
You see, Asians, we all like to save face. So maybe quiet diplomacy helps. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, when Tan Sri Razali was the special envoy to Myanmar, he refused to give interviews. He was very quiet. And then one day there was announced that, the news came out that Aung San Suu Kyi has been released. And Malaysia, Tan Sri Razali's stewardship was actually credited for having a big role in that. In talking to the junta, giving them the respect. And also to secure the release of Suu Kyi. So I don't know. I mean, maybe talk less and do more. I mean, I'm not implying that you guys are not doing anything. But sometimes, when you are, I'm probably eating my own words here from earlier in the conversation. If you, if you criticize them too much and go after them too much, and they'll say, screw you lah, I'm going to hang another apu, I mean,
It's a balance. So
Yeah.
you see, our Prime Minister, he openly have shown that he's spoken to the junta,
yeah,
and he did it actually only because of the earthquake. I understand it. Because if it's not for the earthquake, the junta is not giving anything to ASEAN. And the junta has not given anything to ASEAN until the earthquake really happened. So that's why send a high-level ranking officer there? Earthquake happened, Prime Minister spoke, Foreign Minister gave aid, but openly as well, Prime Minister spoke to the NUG. See, for the first time. As we know, I don't know of other leaders before who have openly spoken to NUG. So whether it's quiet diplomacy or perception building, I don't know. But Terence, when you say this, you say quiet diplomacy. Yes, I agree. Certain things we can do behind closed doors, which we've been doing. But when people don't know about it, why you not doing anything? So why you not doing anything? Why AICHR, why you not doing anything? So then when we talk about it, say, oh, why you shouting so loud? Right?
Yeah.
It's always you can never win.
you can never win lah. Yeah, today government give you 100 ringgit, that means next month they're going to raise the taxes.
So when the Rohingya crisis happened and we
Yeah.
made those statements, some people were not happy in Malaysia with Malaysia. And even at that time, Dato' Sri Anifah Aman distanced himself from the ASEAN chairman statement on the Rohingya. He said that we should call them Rohingya. The way that the statement was drafted was not enough. And then they were seeing Malaysia as an outlier. Whether we can achieve durable peace this year, I doubt it, because the battles in Myanmar are complex.
Right.
They've been fighting for years among each other. And it's not so easy, it's not Israel and the Palestinians.
Yeah.
It's not the PLO and the government. This one, you have a whole range of different stakeholders. It's not just you stop this and you stop this. But I think in the world stage, Malaysia's position this year on chairmanship has been very vocal, even on the issue of Palestine and Gaza. But same principle. We can keep speaking about it.
Yeah.
But is the international community prepared to put boots and go in and get Israel to stop?
But our position on that is a bit on the Middle East. In Israel and Palestine, is a bit problematic, right? Because one, we are not a party to the Rome Statute, and yet we want Netanyahu to be prosecuted under the same ICC court. So, just your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
It's a bit tricky, isn't it? Right?
There were some people at that time when we wanted to sign up the Rome Statute, so a lot of us said, yeah, let's sign up. There's nothing. In law, I've looked at it, it doesn't really affect any of the powers of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, but there were some quarters that said, oh, it's going to affect the royal household, the YDPA,
the sovereignty.
it's going to affect religion, it's going to affect all those things, which I think wasn't right. Even our Ministry of Foreign Affairs was quite clear that we are able to sign up. AGC as well said we are able to sign up. But then when you don't sign up, after that, they said, oh, we cannot make a complaint. So we have to now piggyback on the case that South Africa filed. Because we cannot make the complaint. If we had actually signed up to the Rome Statute, then we could have actually taken some action. And it's so inconsistent. Some groups that say don't sign up to the Rome Statute, suddenly after a while they go up to the ICC and say, hey, please do something about it. And I think that shows how there is some sort of again double standards, hypocrisy,
a bit
about
disconnect.
a bit disconnect, and a bit of political opportunism. I think when you use human rights, so human rights is an easy punching bag. It's an easy punching bag. Human rights will be easily demonized when you just use certain words. But people don't see that human rights have actually supported us in a lot of different ways that people don't talk about. We talk about things like right to life, right to food, right to education at the commission, but nobody talks about it. People just want to say, hey, are you talking about this SOGI rights? Are you talking about LGBT?
So Edmund, can Malaysia still open its doors to the possibility of signing up for the Rome Statute, or it has the ship sailed?
No, we can sign up to Rome Statute anytime. So the government's political will, perhaps you need to have another session on the Rome Statute again, revive it, and see whether the Prime Minister and our government will sign up to it. I don't think there's an issue signing up to it, because the Rome Statute only really kicks in if the local national authorities are unable or unwilling to act on certain crimes. And I don't think in Malaysia, and touch wood, I've not seen any crime in Malaysia that meets the standard of genocide, war crimes, where it's systematic killing. The Rome Statute actually only deals with that kind of very serious violation, systematic, deliberate, where you're killing people based on their skin color, where it's genocide. Are we saying that Malaysia will have this?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
But like you said, the concern is that it will affect the powers, or or it could even apply to our rulers. And I think that if you can tell the audience, those who are probably watching, in an argue case, how would they, not be affected by this? The rulers, especially the YDPA.
Yeah, because it doesn't touch the local immunity that is given to
Was that right?
To the YDPA and our king and the Conference of Rulers. But I think the basic thing is we have never seen, and I have full trust and confidence in our kings and the Conference of Rulers, that we will never go to a state. We will never go to a state where you're talking about genocide in Malaysia, about war crimes in Malaysia, where you are having the government trying to kill off certain communities in Malaysia. I think Malaysia, our Malaysians, you never even seen the military act in the way that the military acts in Thailand. You've never seen the military act in the way that it had acted in Indonesia. Malaysia's military, for example, is one of the most disciplined forces in the world. And we, in fact, go and do peacekeeping. People respect our military. So I think Malaysians generally, the large majority, we are rational. We are people of peace. And I don't think that we will face such a situation.
Even in the Lahad Datu incursion, right? So you would say that the way that our armed forces, our military, our respective military dealt with it was within proportionate means. Would you say that as a human rights advocate, would you say that is how we kind of dealt with it? Because you did mention that Malaysia's military is quite disciplined. Was it proportionate back then, back in 2013, right?
It was considered an attack, a form of terrorism, right? I think the security forces dealt with it, and they were prosecuted as well. So, with the issue of the Rome Statute, to reach that standard is really, really high.
Edmund, how do we navigate, how does AICHR or ASEAN navigate issues of, because discrimination is something that you look into, right? Restricted access to opportunities, education, and whatnot. So how do you navigate, say, affirmative policies?
Affirmative policies based on criteria that is set out, whether it's race or income level, is actually allowed in international law. If you look at the Convention Against Elimination of Discrimination Against Women are supposed to be pushed up. So you need to give affirmative action. So for example, this practice, I give you a simple example, 30%. This 30% practice must be women. That's affirmative action.
Okay.
So orang asli, because of their community and the way they are being treated, you must have, say, for example, 10% of orang asli in a company. That's affirmative action. So long as the criteria is clear, is predictable, and it's proportionate as well as it's justifiable. And that policy is there for a certain period of time, and it's removed or it's mitigated after the purposes are achieved. This criteria is actually, in the sense, what the Constitution, the Federal Constitution, actually allows for. So international human rights law allows for it. Federal Constitution allows for it. it even says all persons are equal, subject to these other things. So I don't see what the question or challenge or the political arguments are, because nobody is arguing against removal of affirmative action that is in place in Malaysia. What people are saying is, look at how it's enforced. Look at how and whether the criteria have been met. If you have already met your purposes or you've already achieved your 30%, maybe you have to put it 40% for women. Or if you already met the 30%, are women still behind? Then say, let's have another type of policy, or we stop the policy because it's not working. So I'm just giving an example that affirmative action per se is not against human rights. So long as there's criteria, is predictable, is legitimate, is justifiable, and is there for a period of time that once you have met the objectives, you stop it.
But how I want to be a prime minister, but I don't have the qualifications.
So there are certain things in the constitution or certain interpretation or certain clauses there that are there that you require amendments to the constitution. But certain people also interpret the constitution wrongly. So again, I think you have to look at what is the bigger picture sometimes, and how important that argument is. Some people make arguments for the sake of making arguments politically, and as the media, sometimes you should ignore those kind of arguments. Although the arguments give you a lot of hits, but you give so much airtime to those arguments.
Come on, Edmund, how long have you known me?
The whole community.
I'm a shitsterer. For the record, Edmund has actually accompanied me to a police station before to get my statement recorded.
Twice, I think.
Yeah. So
Why am I not surprised?
We should have left you there.
kind of will me
Not
out.
yet been arrested.
Anything you want to add, Edmund? I mean, have we touched on the essence of AICHR and what you guys do? Is there anything that you want to add that you think we have left out?
I think I thank you for this opportunity. I think you are right. Sometimes AICHR, we don't talk about work enough. Even some of the commissioners in other countries, some CSO survivors are very hard to access them. In Malaysia, the government has been very good in providing a lot of space for AICHR representatives. All of the AICHR representatives, Tan Sri Shafi, myself, Eric Paulson, Prof. Aisha Bidin, we're all from outside the system, outside government, but supported by the system. And that kind of partnership is actually very collaborative. It's actually very good for how we can advance human rights in the region in terms of the country representatives. Indonesia, Thailand also have an open selection process. So for these three countries, you can see I think our views on human rights are a bit more progressive than the rest. And we are more of the ones trying to change the commission from inside. So I think the opportunity for us to become more powerful with greater mandates like Suhakam is what we are trying to aspire for. And that's where this 5-year work plan that we are looking at, which is available now on site, is something which we hope people will support and work with us together.
Well, if you look at it, even Suhakam took a long time to get to where it is today. I mean, when was its report?
1999?
Yeah, but its report only started being tabled in Parliament.
A few years ago.
Only a few years ago,
Depending on the government.
Correct.
And it started because there was the black eye incident.
Of course.
Remember? So actually Suhakam didn't start because of some benevolent idea. So much pressure from outside. So human rights is like that. Mahathir started Suhakam because there was so much international pressure for the black eye. So for me, I remember Suhakam as the Black Eye Commission. And the first batch of commissioners were excellent. If you recall, you look back at their reports, we were all surprised because when Tun Mahathir at that time, Dr. Mahathir set up Suhakam, everybody thought it was just a whitewash.
Right.
But fortunately, because of the commissioners, they ran it in a way that nobody could have believed. They had inquiries, they had recommendations, and all of us for the first time were stunned because we were saying, we at the Malaysian bar at that time, we thought that the Suhakam was just going to be another government body. But you can see how Suhakam has actually created a platform, increased awareness, as well as made a lot of recommendations in a lot of cases. And enforced disappearance.
Enforced
was one
disappearance
case.
as well, yeah.
Deaths in custody, they have been, to me, SOACAM has been champions of deaths in custody reform, along with a lot of the lawyers groups. So a lot of what is happening, we need independent institutions like SOACAM. That's why in the commission as well, we work closely with SOACAM. Philippines has their Human Rights Commission.
Yes.
Indonesia has Komnas HAM, their Human Rights Commission. Myanmar's Human Rights Commission is weak because of the current situation. Timor-Leste has their own commission as well.
So
where
where is Malaysia today? How far it has progressed in terms of, in the last 2.5 years, in terms of the reforms?
That's a tricky question. So when people ask where is human rights, where we are, I don't answer it, because I will ask back, what human rights are you talking about? There is never a perfect country. There's never a perfect government. We are still suffering from a lot of human rights abuses and violations.
Okay.
So if you talk about economic, social, cultural rights in terms of Malaysia, healthcare, education, our standard, of course, our standard of cost of living has gone up, but the general basic necessities, the CLMV countries, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, are jealous of us. They're envious of us. Civil and political rights, you may say Philippines has a bit more freedom for expression and assembly, but you can see how when our independent courts, Tunku Maimun's last judgment was to strike down the Peaceful Assembly Act.
Right.
When you have that kind of independent judiciary, I can say that for Peaceful Assembly, we are up there. She struck down the Peaceful Assembly provisions. You can just go on the street now. Police has no powers to capture you or investigate. The next rally, police shouldn't be there and discouraging people from going. Because last time we came from a regime, if you remember Reformasi, you have to have the license. License, all of you got arrested. And they just dump you in the truck. So if you ask me, Peaceful Assembly, and this is a second amendment to the Act. We were part of the Bar Council team that made the amendment on the first round of Peaceful Assembly Act, and the judges said in the Nick Nazmi case and the recent case that whatever we had proposed to the government and government had accepted is unconstitutional. You don't need to give notice to do an assembly. So in those terms, I think we are quite powerful for Peaceful Assembly. Expression, I think we still see a lot of, I would say, over-reliance on 233. On 233, on sedition, those things have to change. Death penalty, we are improving, although it's still very slow. So it depends really on the issues that we're talking about.
So is 233, for instance, of the MCMC Act, is 233 within the peripheral vision of AICHR?
We have not received complaints on 233, but locally we have defended people, and I think there are some cases now. I think our firm, we also wanted to try and declare it unconstitutional, because I think it's a bit too wide. It's open to interpretation. It's too much. And at that time, if you recall, and you ask MCMC, the whole idea of 233 was to stop these banks and scammers SMSing you, right? Asking you, hey, take up this loan or something. That was actually the idea. The idea never was to over-regulate it in such a way that somebody is making a comment that you may not like that comment. Fine. Just ignore it.
Because 233 says you can be annoyed. What annoys you may not annoy me. It doesn't take a lot to annoy me, but I'm annoying. But you look at 233, you see my photo next to it. But
we need to look at the very, very serious cases. We need to focus. I think the government, MCMC, regulators on these issues, right? Let's just spend our resources and energy on focusing on the real things that matter. And let's not focus on things that are sideline issues.
But fake news, I guess, it can be amplified and it can spread.
Of
we
course.
have to address lah.
Fake news, we have no issue. Fake news is either defamatory or lies.
Right.
We in human rights, we don't support defamation, we don't support lies.
Right.
Simple as that. But when people mischaracterize freedom of expression and say, oh, misinformation, disinformation is still part of human rights, nobody has said that. Misinformation and disinformation is equally bad. The question is, how do you deal with it?
So that doesn't come under the ambit of freedom of speech.
It doesn't come depending on the degree. So in freedom of speech and expression, there are certain things you need to prohibit. What are things to prohibit? When somebody says, let's go to war, let's go and kill you because of your skin color, that you need to prohibit. That's a criminal offense. But when it's something lesser degree, then you may say, okay, this is something I don't prohibit, I don't penalize, I don't restrict. I may have other ways of dealing with it. But there are certain statements that I've seen circulating, certain cases that we've seen where it's so innocuous, but yet action is taken in such a way that penalizes people. And a lot of these poor people that come to court, they say, okay, I'm just going to plead guilty. I just pay the fine.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they go to jail. They don't know their rights, right? They're just sitting there typing something. So I think there are certain ways of dealing with it where I think we have overreached. We have overreached our powers, and that's why people will continually say that freedom of expression in Malaysia is violated.
So it would help the government of the day, or even successive governments, if there is an amendment to 233.
There's an amendment to 233, or even guidelines to say, okay, certain things you restrict. Be clear about it. Advocacy for war, hatred, racial discrimination, religious. You cannot have that.
Yeah.
You cannot have that. That one in human rights you cannot have. That's right at the top. You must stop. But certain things that's below it, the question is how much do you govern? But certainly not put somebody in jail for it.
Because like in the example of 233, the authorities, in this case, maybe MCMC does not have an option to slap you on the wrist. They have to take action if a complaint is lodged, or if they have to take action. There's no legal room for MCMC because of that section. Am I right to say that?
Yes. So 233 provides for the fine or the imprisonment.
Yes.
But 233 is a penal provision. Yeah. We say you use the penal provision only when it falls under those categories. Advocacy for hate, racial, religious discrimination. But other things you shouldn't use 233 because 233 puts somebody in prison. 233 is the most serious ones. For example, forget about 233, you think about Sedition Act. Sedition Act, you're putting somebody in prison.
Right.
Yeah, even the penal code, incitement, you're putting somebody in prison. That means for human rights, it's a curtailment. You're curtailing somebody's freedom of expression by way of a penal provision. That must be left for the most serious of offenses. Statements. Yes.
I think it becomes problematic when people are not only expressing themselves, which is totally fine. They disagree with certain leaders, certain rulers, and whatnot. It's not what they're saying; it's how they're saying it. Sometimes it may come across as an insult. So how do we go about this? Because you're saying that Section 233 you limit to a certain degree of offences. I understand if it's related to murder or race, which is very risky. It's insightful a lot of incitement. But sometimes also the comments are like, it's just somebody is ranting and they're not saying something that's true, and I think even they know that, and everybody else knows that. They're just trying to insult, just to vent out some anger, irritate and whatnot. So I think we had this, what they call it, akta sakit hati, which is, I found that quite humorous, which is kind of true because they're saying that look, the British do this all the time. They make fun of their leaders. I think because satire. So they are trying to vent out, air some frustration. Life is difficult. Hidup ni keras, as they say.
Yeah.
So should Section 233 be applied to these folks?
So in the Zuna cases, if you remember from the we got the judgment from Arif Yusof and Ma Weng Kwai, I think in the Court of Appeal. He said political satire is political satire. It's not something which should be penalized. And Hizuna cartoons, we won that case. It's a reported judgment, and a lot of the other cases have used it. So it really depends on what type is the comment. Like Fahmi Reza will put out a lot of things. Of course, to you and to me, we just laugh at it and say, political satire. So why do some people in power are so thin-skinned that they say some action needs to be taken? For me, we have already established in Malaysia, political satire is political satire. You just accept it as it is. But political satire doesn't go so far to allow you and say, you cannot be inciting or making fun of people's religion, making fun of people's holy books, all of that. That really is incitement. So there's, of course, a line to be drawn. But pure political satire, if you are a politician, take it. Take it on the chin.
Take it on chin, yeah.
Don't care. And I don't know who's making the reports. I don't know if Fahmi is making the reports or MCMC is making. I don't know who is making it. But it's very weird, that we are at this day and age and political satire is still being penalized, and the number of cases that are far against Fahmi is just mind-boggling. It used to be Zuna, I remember.
Right. No, it's Fahmi Reza, yeah.
So your question to me actually insulting is, you have another option. The second option is, if it's lies, misinformation, go and file a defamation case. You file a civil defamation, nobody cares. You just have to pay. But it's not something where you should use a law where the courts will have to independently judge. You're putting the judges in a situation where it's luck. If the judge thinks, this is so funny, and the judge is well read, think. But if a judge comes from somewhere where this is so shocking, or they come from a different background, they say, hey, this is very scary. Okay, I'm going to penalize you. You're putting judges in a position where they have to make a subjective element as to interpreting this political satire that you have.
I guess it's also who you're targeting, who you're talking about. If I were to say Azim is a poofter who likes to make love to banana trees, you'll just laugh it off. I don't know if that's true, but it's just hypothetically speaking. We can all have a good laugh about it. But if I were to say the same, the same joke about the Prime Minister, for instance, then I could be in trouble. Because
depends on how you say it. If you're saying it as a fact, then he may say, I don't know, I'm not sure what he will respond. But if you're saying it's a fact, then you say you're lying. But if you are saying it, and you are very good, let's say you are very good political satire and you're saying it in a context of something, and people know that this was in a context of making fun or comedy,
right?
Then it shouldn't be penalized. So you look at the degree, look at the language, look at how severe the language is, right? And you're putting the judges in a very difficult situation sometimes.
And when the sentencing is imprisonment, right? I kind of find it ridiculous because it probably, our prison systems are already overstretched. Just as our hospitals are, right? Our prisons are like overstretched. And I just could imagine that every time a new law comes and you are introducing, tougher punishments, longer jail terms and whatnot, and more people have access to phones and stuff, people are making comments. We can't stop people from thinking and sometimes thinking out loud.
Yeah.
It will also mean that we might need bigger, correctional facilities, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a strain on the taxpayers and stuff like that. I mean, this is my 2 cents. I just think that it's kind of, if you're gonna legislate something like that and you're gonna mete out tougher punishment, it also means that you need bigger correctional facilities.
That's if they punish.
Yeah.
But you see the amount of resources that you need to do to investigate. You have to take the phone, they will send you forensics, they need to pull out the phone, take all the data, send it to the AG's chambers. The amount of time and resources just to...
Exactly. And when police work should be focused on
real
criminals.
Correct. Other things. More important things to me.
Yeah. Guys, we've really digressed from the Myanmar conflict to violating banana trees. So maybe some final words from Edmund.
No, I just thank you very much. I hope that the media will continue to support us.
Of course.
AICHR, we're very appreciative of that. And of course, we hope that we can see some progress on human rights in the region. And I've just shared also what our priorities are as the Malaysian chairman of ASEAN. It's only going to come once every 10 years or even longer, depending. Now Timor-Leste. So this is what we have, what I've presented in the past 6 months, like some sort of report card of what we have done during our chairmanship.
So your tenure also concludes in October, right?
As chair, we conclude in December. We hand over in November, but as representative, our tenure is normally for 3 years.
Are you still on the commission?
We will still be. I'll still be on commission until
But the chair of the Philippines-
Prime Minister and Foreign Minister says that I will have to that somebody else replaces me. So this appointment after the public process is appointment by the Foreign Minister, approved by the Prime Minister.
Okay.
So maybe if I say something that is not too good against the government in your show,
We can edit it out. It's fine.
no, it's okay. I'm honest and I'm genuine, and
If he wants out, we can add the last part of this conversation.
Okay, Edmund, thank you so much for your
thank
time.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you
everyone.
very
Thank you very
Thank
much.